alhamdulillah alatendo kola UDP la alfa wolo ya ta busanga banko mo sonde ma wodum manke kensenti ala ya wol sonde ma di ko be la kulo sanja mane tambe de man sayangi nola mariana ni le mansi tumba usen dabo di ko be la kulo nya ko be la kulo nanna be la kulo mana da man sayata na kumo be le moy nya ko ta man sayana dabo yo ne ta man sayana dabo le ba kulo Gambia kolo ni magiri Adwa fasiwa Gambia molo mume Munamko mi magiri Nabankoka Adwa fasiwa Miya moni ni santo ni mera sindi juna Muna ni sita nunjuna Tenno mono dahada ya kuwal bera kela Jinka mafaysa bori Bari mambori Loya kiola mwiri Ala yena tingina kama kakamye Nuwari fasa Useni yeda kasora Da moni yore kuya Tabari yare fandu Wala muna soboti Muna biti gola Imaje mansayata Kunung koi koye buselu Kunung koye loya Mi komandela Samay sako mansa
To be the last speaker and also to be the speaker after Larry Sise and Dr. Almameh makes my task extremely difficult because they have more experience and they have worked also outside the Gambia and they have been a more keen observer of the scene of our politics and the politics of UDP. I think my task is very simple, is to tell the story of the UDP. That in itself is a very long story. It's a very difficult story to tell. Maybe Usainu Dabo would have been a better person to tell the story. Or Alaji S. Dabo for that matter, because he was there, and even maybe Auntie Zainab. But I'll try. First, I would like to remind you where we are. Then I will try to walk back where we come from. Then I will try and conclude with where we need to get to in 2026 and beyond. This year is the 30th anniversary of the infamous 1994 coup d'etat in the Gambia. This year also is the 30th anniversary of the first democratic election in South Africa. In fact, recently they had an election and the ANC is in trouble. I make reference to that because our own party leader has been called Gambia's Mandela. And the UDP has been recognized also in some respects as the ANC of the Gambia. The third anniversary is, of course, the genocide in Rwanda, also happened in 1994. In Africa, it's very important that we understand where we come from. Because I notice in the Gambia particularly, there is a tendency to bury the good deeds of Larry Sise or Zainab Diab Ghanim, to pretend that everything is just about now. Everything has no context. I have power now, I can exercise it over you. So these reminders are necessary. Obviously, my starting point would be on the 20th anniversary of the United Democratic Party, which was 2016. In my books, 2016 is an inflection year. The country reached an inflection point. Yahya Jammeh with his draconian and terrible leadership style, supported and aided and abetted by the 1997 Constitution, was in power for 22 years of misgovernance, mismanagement, but more consequentially, in my view, he spent that 22 years peddling a narrative of division, of bigotry, of setting Gambians against each other. Every household possible in the Gambia, Jammeh had interfered there. There were no reforms. Our politics was so toxic. Solo Sandeng, after agreeing with all the other political parties that they will go out peacefully protesting, that we will have constitutional and democratic change as far as the electoral laws of the Gambia are concerned. After agreeing with all the other political parties. But he became a lone ranger, except for other comrades in the UDP. They went out in April 2016. The same brutality that UDP had experienced over the 22 years of its 20 years of its existence was heaped on them again. They were arrested. Solo was brutally tortured until he died in broad daylight. This news came out, of course, and when it reached the executive of our party, it was decided that the party will come out and demand Solo Sandeng, dead or alive. This was on the 15th of April, 2016. But before the party faithful gathered at the party leader's residence on Pipeline, before they went out, the party leader gave one of the most consequential speeches in the history of this country. That I will lead this protest. I would lead this demand peacefully for Solo Sandeng to be given to us, whether he is dead or alive. But I will tell all my comrades that if bullets are coming, I want to be the first recipient of the bullet. Now, that day on Saturday, fell on a Saturday, peacefully, with the global sign of peaceful demonstrations that is forming a human chain, linking hands. I saw there Femi Peters, I saw there Alhaji Mout Sane, I saw there Laminda Mudiba, I saw there Kemeseng Jame, Alhaji Kemeseng Jame, Fakeba Koli, the late Fakeba Koli, the late Femi Peters, the late Laminda Mudiba. They were the ones leading that procession. Again, the same brutality was visited on them. Senudabo was hurt on his head. They were taken, and a sham trial was carried out by the so-called mercenary judges of the Yahya Jammeh era. They were convicted and sent to prison. The appeal upheld their conviction. Perhaps one of the darkest days in the history of our republic. Everybody thought that that is the end of the UDP. Now their great charismatic leader is incarcerated. We have killed one of them. They will all be cowered down. They will all be scared to say a word. But of course, this plan of Jammeh failed. It failed because of the principles that laid the foundation of the founding of the United Democratic Party. We have a constitution that provides for the selection of a flag bearer, that provides for a second layer of leadership. So in the wisdom of our principal leaders, all the deputies stayed back. The deputy leader, Aji Yamseka, was not imprisoned. The deputy senior administrative secretary, Alaji S. Dabo, was not imprisoned. The deputy treasurer, national treasurer, was not imprisoned. The president of the youth wing and the other leaders of the party, luckily, could not be imprisoned. So we pick ourselves up from that inflection point and offered a person in the name of His Excellency, now President Adama Barrow, as our flag bearer. I understand from the people involved in the process, it was not a forced choice. Others decided not to accept the offer. And when President Barrow accepted the offer, it also coincided with talks amongst the other opposition parties that we should present a united front against dictatorship. Of course, presenting a united front against dictatorship is how the United Democratic Party was formed in the first place. You see, those who do not know the history of the party and who do not know the political history of the Gambia make this mistake that Yaya Jammeh was some hooligan who just came upon it. No, he wasn't. He was a very cunning, a very shrewd, a very diabolical political operator. When political activity was resumed in the Gambia, purportedly, in 1996, he unbanned all political activities except three: PPP, NCP, GPP. And that was not enough. He said that Sadara Kairaba Jawara cannot stand. OJ cannot stand. Sirif Diba cannot stand. MC Cham cannot stand. Hassan Musa Kamara cannot stand. The reason why he did that, in my view, is that he knew if any of those people go with him to the people, he is going to lose. He knew that. So certain individuals were proscribed. Now those people also were not spring chicken. They were very experienced political operators. They say, look, if we leave this arena to this guy, dictatorship is going to be entrenched here and military government will be part and parcel of the facade. So these three principal parties decided to come together. They sent representatives to meetings and they eventually settled. And I'm very pleased, I'm very proud that Honorable Larry Sise is sitting here because He was a prime participant, a witness to the birth of our movement. The then former parliamentary secretary, Landing Jallo Sane, is like an elder brother to him, called him to help with the initial drafting of the Constitution. From there, matters start picking up steam, and people like Honorable Bemba Tambedu, representing the GPP, and others came together and start identifying candidates. I think because of the brutality of military governments, a lot of people did not want to put their head above the parapet. They approached Alhaji Usainu Dabo, who was away on mission for the National Olympics Committee during the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. He told them, well, I am away, and before I can make any firm commitments, I'll have to speak to my family and my relatives. So upon his return, he went and did the family consultation and graciously accepted to lead the movement. So these are the very, very basic information about the birth of our movement. So the election that ensued in 1996, our first showing to the Gambians put a crosshairs on our back, put a target on our movement, because with all his schemes, with all his plans, Jammeh realized that a new formidable democratic front has been presented by the United Democratic Party. And there is no way that in a free and fair election, I'm going to be able to win against these people. Because, of course, Lawyer Dabo comes to the task with a distinguished pedigree. He was the sole lawyer defending the NCP and the people accused of involvement in the 1981 attempted coup d'etat. So that is where he made his name as a stalwart defender of human rights. Gambia lawyer Ba starts getting to be associated with his name. And it's important that he was the founding leader and our leader up to now, because I am one, and I may be biased in this regard. Lawyers make very good leaders. Nelson Mandela was a lawyer. Kwame Nkrumah studied law, but he did not graduate. But Lee Kuan Yew was a lawyer. Seretse Khama of Botswana was a lawyer. Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer. Jawaharlal Nehru was a lawyer. Of course, Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. So I think there is an affinity between lawyers and leading, because what leadership is really about for the young members of the party is really about creating a vision and constructing a framework that is based on justice, a framework that is balanced and fair. This is why lawyer leaders tend to be very successful, because you work with abstracts, things like justice, fairness, equity. These are all values that are very dear to the human spirit. So having Usainu Dabo as our founding leader placed us in a very, very advantageous position because almost all our contributions to the development of this country, whether it's the jurisprudence or is the whole theory of government, was based on that vision that in society you need a balance. You need a balance of institutions that can really deliver development. So our founding father, our founding leader, has insisted that everything we do, we must base it on the rule of law. Everything. So whenever we are aggrieved, whenever we feel that something is not right, we go to court. And we have had some victories. Of course, we have had some setbacks. But those setbacks is not for want of trying. It's because institutionally, the 22 years of dictatorship had managed to distort the architecture of good governance. In that process, we remember very clearly when Keme Senghame took the Gambia government to court over the interpretation of the Constitution of the Gambia, the issue of whether Gambia is a secular republic or not. We also remember very recently the mayor of KMC going to court saying that according to the Local Government Act, according to the 1997 constitutions, the municipal councils, the local governments they have to serve 4 years, not the 5 years. But most importantly, there is nowhere in the law where their term can be truncated and you have what they used to call uh, the management committee that would oversee for 3 months before the elections and soon after. So we have had some great victories, and we have also in the process contributing to enriching the jurisprudence of the Gambia. When we talk about the UDP's journey as a movement, we have to remember the Denton Bridge ambush, the Chamoy incident, the Fas Njagachoy standoff. All of these were done in pursuit, in the vision of an equal and a just society. Of course, it's painful to get beaten. It's painful to be thrown into prison. But the fact of the matter is that over the last 27, 28 years of the existence of the movement, one abiding truth is that the kind of human capital that has been attracted to the United Democratic Party is very superior. Lamino Komma is here, Larry Sise is here, Lamin Mane is here, Zainab is here. Honestly, if they had wanted, they would be sitting maybe at the State House having super kanja for lunch today. So you want to ask the question, but why are they staying with the United Democratic Party? What is so special about this movement? This movement is important because it is the real inheritor of the legacy of the founding father of this country. Because we were formed out of these three parties, people forget that Sirif Diba, the late Sirif Diba, the late Hassan Musa Kamara, were all vice presidents of Sadauda. So they are cut from the same cloth of progressive politics of purpose, politics of dignity, politics of service. When Sadauda was removed, yes, Al Ghali Commission was there, blah, blah, blah. Where is the stolen money? Where is the fruit of his corruption? Where is it? Nobody could find it. So the same goes for Sirif Mustafa Adiba. The same goes for Hassan Musa Kamara. So these people were in politics because of a vision to serve their people. We, in the present configuration of the UDP, claim to be the rightful heirs of that democratic tradition, of that value politics, of that kind of politics that is about building institutions. One thing that is not talked about enough, in my view, is that one of the best, one of the highest quality human capital produced throughout Africa was produced by the Kairaba Jawara government from 1965 to 1990. Larry Sise was res rep of the United Nations in Southern Africa. Lamin Mane was a highly appointed ADB member of staff. Now, if I go on the list of Gambians who have reached very high distinction under the able leadership of Sadauda, you will remember the former ICC prosecutor, Mrs. Fatou Bensouda, now ambassador to the United Kingdom. Our own Chief Justice, who was also Sadauda's Attorney General and Solicitor General, was the Chief Prosecutor for the Rwanda Tribunal. You have people like Daryl Tommy, Mr. Mane mentioned his name. You have people like Yusufa Crooks and Lamin Barrow. All of these people were trained under the Sadauda government. So Sadauda was a builder. And what we need in the Gambia, what we need in our movement is to find builders. And here they are, trying to build and mold the character of the coming generation. This is the purpose of politics in our view. And this is how 2026, the message must be abundantly clear to everyone that we have 30 years to reflect on the kind of bombastic, nonsensical leadership that Yahya Jammeh offered. And that style. Because in the Gambia, people don't have reference points. Some of us are old enough to have reference points. I went to school, like Mr. Mane has said, or Dr. Mane has said, on a scholarship. I did not have to know anybody. I do not have to belong to any party. I got this scholarship on the merit of my sweat and my hard work at academics. And this was not something to, it was the norm. Like I said earlier, I went with 7 other gentlemen. Almost all of them were from the provinces. The other one was the lawyer Lamin Jabi. He is from Jarumekoto. And he went to high school in Tahir Ahmadiyya High School in Basse. He came for his A-levels in St. Augustine's. I am saying this to remind all of you that this country had a glorious political tradition, political culture that has produced really great Gambians in spirit, in temperament, and in competence. So our movement continues to attract this kind of high quality individual. It continues to inspire a lot of people. Because I said that earlier. Jammeh knew who his real targets, who his real adversaries were. He did not ban PDOIS, with all due respect. He did not ban them. He knew that these people are going to be around and they would educate people and raise their awareness. But it's very unlikely that they will be able to pose a threat to me because he was going to employ populist politics, talking about youths and things like that. Because let's face it, how can you say in a constitution that all you need is high school certificate to be the president, and all that age requirement is 30 years? Even in the US, it's at least 35. At least 35. And they have never had a president younger than John F. Kennedy, who became president at 42. What I would want to say is that our movement had uh, a very sneaky and a very dishonest rival in Yahya Jammeh. And he managed over the years to peddle a narrative that up to this day is haunting our party, is haunting our movement, based on bigotry, but also based on the gullibility of Gambians. He had tried to paint this party as an ethnic party. Of course, in the Gambia, whenever people raise that specter, people should listen to them and say that actually this person has nothing to offer. That's why he is raising the specter of ethnic origins. In the Gambia, we have the same origin. I'll start with Sadauda himself. Sadauda's maternal grandmother, the woman who gave birth to his mother, is a Jola from Fonyi, who was captured during the Soninke Marabu Wars of the early 19th century and was taken to Nyamina with her sister. Her sister is the grandmother of the Mbojis of Nyamina Dankum. So if you go back 200 years and we have been intermingling, intermixing, yes, there is pride in aspects of our identity. But in the Gambia, we have two major religions, and they are all egalitarian. They are all equalizers, Islam and Christianity. In both faiths, the only important thing between you and your neighbor is the religion. For Muslims, you can even marry a Christian woman. And in a Republican secular state, you can marry officially. So this has meant that for generations, we have been tied by blood. But we have to go beyond blood ties when we come to the political stage. We have to insist on a politics of values. I know both Mr. Sise and Mr. Mane have spoken extensively about corruption and public service. So I probably may not say much about that. What I want to leave you with as the coming generation is to increase your own participation, is to evolve your own initiatives, to ensure that you are counted, to ensure that you are engaged, and you do it soberly. Because if you are participating, if you are engaged, nobody is going to be able to pull the wool over your heads. Youth is a very glorious time. It's the time for dreams. It's the time for your imagination to soar. The guy who founded Facebook is just getting out of his youth. Mark Zuckerberg, he dropped out of Harvard University. I mean, if you look at American history, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Microsoft founder, they all dropped out of school. We may not be endowed with that kind of genius. But we have a very proud culture, a very proud civilization, and very illustrious ancestors from whom we can learn about how to live in this world with dignity and injustice and fairness. Of course, our movement has a lot to be proud of. If you remember when we were in power from 2017 to 2019, we established the Janet Commission to inquire into the Yahya Jammeh financial dealings and his close associates. We got a plethora of recommendations for both institutional reforms and legal reforms. We got some people being banned from public service because of their complicity, because of their aiding and abetting of the Jammeh crimes, financial crimes. But what are we seeing now? All that good work is now being reversed for political expediency purposes. We don't say this out of bitterness or spite. We say it because it's the truth. We also had the CRC, the Constitutional Review Commission. Every Gambian was consulted. Every Gambian had their say. Do we agree with all the provisions of the Constitution? Certainly not. Nobody is ever going to agree with all provisions. But it was a good enough start to set us off on a better path. But what happened in 2020? It was rejected by a minority of members of parliament for whatever reason. But most importantly, we had the TRRC that let us reflect on our recent history and come to terms with our past so that the future works for all of us. Again, in that final recommendation and report, a whole page was dedicated to our movement. I would advise you find the time and go and read the TRRC report. That state agencies, security agencies, deliberately, even the courts, deliberately were set against the UDP whenever we have activities to do, to intimidate, to harass, and to terrorize us. This is in the TRRC report. The government white paper did not qualify it, did not dismiss it. So it is a fact that as a movement, we were victimized by the state. There was a target on our back everywhere we move. That is why Denton Bridge incident happened, the ambush there. That is why even the Kalama Revolution happened. That's why, of course, ultimately Solo Sandeng paid with his life. So this is the history of our movement. These are the men and women who stood up for justice, for dignity, and for prosperity of the Gambia. Kodoke is adding, Kodoke is very educated. He is Harvard trained also. So he has all the words. But I will conclude by saying a few things that remains to be done by our movement. And I think it's also important for us from time to time to reflect on what did not go our way. It's my honest opinion that in 2017, our movement was not as prepared as it could have been to be in power. We got power in 2016. but owing to a lot of factors. And the first factor, in my view, was the coupling of Coalition 2016. We have expressed our views about that, but once we got to power, we seem to have not gotten our A game, our A team on the front line. This is a personal observation, this is a personal view. Therefore, what remains to be done as a movement as we inch towards power are, in my view, the following. We have to, party-wide, movement-wide, articulate a theory of change. I heard Yakumba's statement, and I heard Dr. Mane's statement, that it's about empowerment. Our theory of change must be about empowering Gambians and Gambians institutions to build a better society, a better nation. In addition to a theory of change, we need a theory of government. What is government for? This, as a movement, we must clearly articulate and percolate within all our cadre, all of them. This women empowerment, the constitution of the UDP reflecting this 30%, how do we operationalize it? How do we change things, still continuing to be faithful to our values and to our ideals? This is the challenge of your generation. These are the kind of initiatives that are necessary to enable us to have honest in-house conversation about where we are, where we have been, and where we surely will be. The last contribution I think we need to do party-wide is to look at the opportunities for the corporatization of the development process. I have to pay tribute to Kamaraba in this regard, because every time the party leader is speaking, every time the UDP is organizing, even if at all it's not a UDP event, he makes time to put it on air. We live in that age. So now, how do you corporatize someone like Kamaraba's effort? How do you corporatize the effort of the youth wing? I heard Mr. Mane talk about it, that if you have bankable projects that are rooted at the grassroots, at the community level, you can get sponsorship from all over the world, especially to mitigate and to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change. So if we are able to corporatize, and I would see where Binzi is no longer here, but I saw Honorable Chairman Yankuba Dabo doing a Tacito kind of road project. I honestly think that's the best way to go. However, for quality purpose controls and for accountability and transparency purposes, if the effort was corporatized, there would be more young people working there, maybe a few business people like Auntie Zainab would be able to get into some kind of business relationship. And overall, it would be a win-win for the community as well as for the base, and it would create employment opportunities for the young people. So I think these three things, if we are able to put them together as a movement, it will help us prepare even better. Because if you look at the economy, the commanding heights of the whole economy of the Gambia is in the hands of non-Gambians. And I agree entirely with Mr. Mane that we cannot do this alone. We would have to invite others to help us. But there was a time when I was a schoolboy in the 70s in the Gambia. This was the shopping center of Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, Mali, because of the kind of stewardship at the helm. The importers were Mbainjai and Son, Modu Musa, and a host of other Gambians. The seafood business was controlled by the famous football enthusiast, the late Fisco Obi Konate. So all I'm saying is that with corporatization, with this kind of initiatives across the party, a lot of youth employment challenges could be dealt with. There would be widespread prosperity across the economy. I don't believe in poverty eradication. I believe in wealth creation and prosperity building. Because if you do that, it wouldn't take very long, especially if it is all underpinned by the idea of Tesito. You have been sitting here the whole day. Party leader is busy trying to establish certain facts in a case that is coming up on Monday. Yakumba has to go and do. We all have so many things going on at the same time. But as a movement, we must try to have a coherence of our activities. And whenever we have the opportunity to exchange ideas, let's hope that it is as frank as possible, but it should also be creative and imaginative. Restating our problems, our challenges, there is a place for it. But we have to think really outside the box. We have to think beyond the horizon so that when we get to power, it's not if, when we get to power in 2026, we would be ready. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
The UDP Students Wing, that is your platform. And the support that you will get will be this. The party will always support you. But your platform is the UDP Students Wing. If you ask Ismaila, he knows that I'm always supporting the Students Wing because I feel very proud of them. I know that UDP has it. In whichever level, we have people that man those places very responsibly. And as long as whatever you do, as long as it's within the confines of the law, as our party leader always tells us, nothing abusive, nothing aggressive. I mean, you can be aggressive, but responsible aggressiveness, if I would, so to speak, is there. And your party will always support you. You have seen that UDP never, ever dumps their militants. We're always behind them. The party leader is always behind. The legal team is there. As long as you do things within the confines of the law, your party will always support you. But your platform is the UDP Students Wing. You have to make it a very strong platform. Whatever you do, that is what I came here today, because I want to support the Students Wing. Because I saw in their appeal that they would like to be strongly supported by the National Executive. That is why I came. I had a prior engagement, family engagement. But I thought that I should be here. And as he also said, women, you keep saying women empowerment. I was just counting these people. Just a few women. We have very good women who speak, who are outspoken. The national female wing and the youth female wing. You have the Binzis there, the Ajirohis. You have seen how they are very vibrant. They come out. They are not intimidated. I might be this age, but nobody intimidates me, and I'm a woman. You can ask my fellow executive members. If nobody says it, I can tell you that I am a force to be reckoned with because I don't keep my mouth shut. Rightly or wrongly, you have to voice out your opinion because it counts. That is when we can debate on it. But with the female, they come out, but you don't even hear their voices. They're just sitting there behind meekly like this, keeping quiet, afraid that maybe someone here or maybe what I'm going to say is stupid. It's not. No matter how you think, that is how you will learn to put your points across. And then in that, you will join the decision-making process. As Yakuba said, I hate to hear people saying, I'm a voter's card. I'm a politics. I'm not a politician and I'm not into politics. But I always say that it is very irresponsible of people not to have a voice and not to go out to vote. Because once you do not vote, you have not performed your civic duty. And in that case, you have no right to say any complaint after that. In anything, you cannot complain. And then I hear also, you see the student wings in the universities, how strong they are. Say, and the Job University in Senegal, because they have every that they are not patriotic. Senegalese are very patriotic. They come out in their numbers and join together and fight a cause. And when it's done, they go their separate ways, period, because they are doing it for country, not for individual. So this is what we should do. And this is what should happen. We want Pastef, Jomai, Sonko, Jomai, Moi, Sonko, Tenyun Fini doing the flume alone. I'm not encouraging anybody to go out in the street and make riots, because I know these people are all, in fact, listening to this. They did to this meeting today. They might misinterpret my words, but I will still say what I want to say. So I'm not saying that you should go out there and riot. I'm saying your platform is the UDP students' wing. You do what you should do and come out with it strongly, and then we will always be behind you. Thank you.
In fact, anybody talks about ethnicity has some complex in the person. Check it out. Momo manika, you are tribalist deep down in his subconscious, at every tribalist. Check it out from anybody and let them not deceive you anymore. The other thing I want to talk about is about the currency. Look, Kodome Mbebul, the money that you have is just paper, it's worthless. If there is no confidence of currency, nobody will take it. UDP has currency and credibility, I can tell you that. Because we went to the donors conference, we are able to raise the confidence to $1.6 billion. It dissipated. Why? Because the confidence and credibility went out as soon as Dabo and Sanya left. So that's the point. Thank you very much.
For everybody. I personally, I have learned a lot from our various speakers, from Uncle Koma to my very own Kotoke, I'll call it, Almameh, down to Doctor, even Auntie Zainab, who said she's not going to say anything, was able to share something with us. This is the United Democratic Party, and I always said that this party gave me a platform, because I could remember during the 5-point agenda discussion, I was among the very, students that were tasked to moderate the 5-point discussion. I think Auntie Zainab was one of my guests on Kirfatu, so it doesn't only stop there. During the fundraiser activity that was done in the Independence Stadium, I chaired the event. So I'm urging all the students that are here today that the platform that they are talking of, the platform is already created. I could remember in February when we organized a massive blood donation, we were criticized. But then at the end of the day, I'm on records. Dr. Mahamadi Cham called me and said, the blood that was donated here today was massive. Even the military could not produce that kinds of blood for us. So this is the United Democratic Party. In concluding remarks, we have already done 4 activities. That is, since the coming of the new leadership, we have done the blood donation drive. We have done the wristband initiative. And I could say today the students' wing It's more than $50,000 is rich, I could say. And then it not only stopped there, we have done the student convergence. When I visited the party leader in his office, I told him that once we are able to meet the technocrats, it will give us an opportunity to go out in the grassroots and explain some of the things that was done. So that is our next activity that we will do. I heard Uncle Almameh talking of corporatization, I would say. This flash drive here contains songs of UDP, all the UDP songs that we were able to contain or that we were able to gather are in this flash drive. So these are some of the initiatives that the United Democratic Students Wing is capable of doing. We want um, 2026, when the call for parties' wings to donate cash, we don't want to be left out. We want, when Auntie Zena, who is the head of the fundraiser, when she called and said, we want people to come and donate, I will sign the check and say, Auntie, here is $50,000 for the students. So on that note, I thank all my colleagues who took time. I know we are on exams. Some of them are yet to finish their exams, but then they decided to come. And then I'm also thanking the technocrats who have sacrificed their time in their officious busy schedule, I would say, to come and grace this occasion. This convergence is not stopping here. On that note, I want to thank all of you for coming, and I look forward to the next activity that we'll be doing. Thank you.